The easiest way to see this played out is with the clients that we work with every day. So many bands, so many musicians are working towards that record deal. And I've seen so many situations where they finally get it and they're done. They have no other definition of success. Once they've reached that plateau, they're spent. And that's really scary to me. If you're in this for that fame, simply for the sake of being famous, it's going to be a hard ride for you, I imagine. But if you're in this because you can't picture yourself doing anything else, this is what you do, this is what you're good at, then take solace in the fact that you don't have to be famous to make this work. You can do it. Hey everybody, Resident Loser Jeremy here. I want to talk about what it means to be successful in the music industry as a musician, band, producer, a mixer, mastering engineer, whatever that looks like. Success in the music industry, and does it equal fame? Because a lot of the people we come into contact with, especially in my line of work as a producer, a lot of bands, a lot of musicians just are the recording process or the process of getting an album produced. It's just a stepping stone to get to be signed by a record label and then be famous, and then they're done. I want to talk about if those two things are mutually exclusive or if they have to go hand in hand. I think the easiest way to describe this would be by talking about warehouse and distribution companies. How many famous warehouse and distribution CEOs do you know of? I can think of one, Jeff Bezos. That's probably a very dumbed down way of describing what he does. Jeff Bezos is a household name. At the time of recording this, the wealthiest man in the world. However, there are probably many more very successful warehouse and distribution center CEOs, owners, workers out there who nobody knows, and yet they're living very successful lives and very fulfilling careers. From a production standpoint and a musician standpoint, we can relate to this, that you can be successful at this just like any other job. It's not just the pursuit of fame that's going to get you to the point where you're successful. And again, you have to define success on your own. Is success just being able to pay the rent? Is success being able to put food on the table for your family? Is success being able to build up a business, create a bunch of assets, and then kind of have a built-in retirement for you when the time comes? It's so different for everybody, and then fame could be a part of that equation or not, and you have to decide for yourself. From a music producer standpoint, not all of us can be Paul Epworth, Pete Rock, Roy Baker, Jay Wexler, Mutt Lange, Phil Spector, and we certainly cannot all be Max Martin. But that's okay, we don't have to be. No matter where you're starting or where your end game is, where that finish line is, hard work comes into play. You're gonna have to work your butt off at this no matter what. But I think there's a lot of people out there, and myself included, that no one really has to know your name to be able to be successful at this. Now, I don't want this to come off braggy, and it shouldn't come off braggy if any one of you decide, well, now that you're looking back at your career, maybe this is success. Maybe I am here. Maybe I have arrived. Maybe this is all I want out of this, and I don't need to keep chasing this fantasy of being a household name within my industry. There's a lot that comes with fame that's not desirable for a lot of people. And frankly, that's kind of why some of us decide to sit behind the desk instead of being on the other side of the glass performing, says the guy with the YouTube channel. I think for me, fame has always just been completely separate from success. I have seen success as something you can kind of go under the radar and achieve, where fame is something completely different. One of the things I had a professor say a long time ago that always stuck with me: fame does not equate to giving value to others. And that's a big goal of mine. And if it's a big goal of yours, you don't really need that fame. Now, if you're also famous, that doesn't mean you're incapable of providing value to others. They're just not required in the same space. When it all comes down to it, do you want everyone to know your name, or do you want everybody to know the name of everyone you've worked with? I would rather have that second one. And this is where maybe the title of this is a bit misleading. Do you have to be famous to be successful? That's up to you. The easiest way to see this played out is with the clients that we work with every day. So many bands, so many musicians are working towards that record deal. And I've seen so many situations where they finally get it and they're done. They have no other definition of success. Once they've reached that plateau, they're spent. And that's really scary to me. There's so much more out there for all of us in the music industry. And if fame is your only short-sighted goal, you're missing everything else. There's so much out there that you could be doing to further your career, to make this a sustainable career, to lift everybody else up, to lift the scene up as a whole in whatever area you're at, that if you're so short-sighted that all you want is a record deal, once you finally get it, you're gonna be a little jaded by it. I've been witness, even this year, to a handful of individuals who have come through the studio, put awesome projects out, multiple records, finally get signed, and then stop. Come to a dead stop. Because what do you do now? You can certainly still get a record deal and go on to do fantastic things. Of course you can. Most popular music is made up of those individuals, but what props up the industry as a whole, people on the regional circuits, people going and doing those festival circuits. Now, talking about that right now seems a little weird in times where having gatherings of multiple people without wearing masks seems kind of like a dream almost, but those times do exist and they will come back, I promise you. Look at the products industry. Consumer level recording equipment. That alone should tell you enough people are making money at this to be able to spend money on consumer level recording gear. That wasn't even an option 20 years ago. People could not do that from their bedroom because that was not accessible. But people have become successful to the point where they can afford these things. And that's driving the cost even further down. So no, I don't think you have to be famous to be successful. As someone who owns a recording studio and does production and mixes and masters records, a lot of the people I work with will never be household names. They're making livings at this. I would consider that successful. I think a lot of them don't consider themselves successful quite yet. I don't necessarily consider myself successful, although somebody from the outside looking at me might point to me and say, that guy's got it made. He has a building, he has his own studio, he's working with all these people, and it might look like I'm a success, and a lot of it has to do with how you view yourself. There's so many people I can point to, there's so many bands that I work with that I'm like, oh my gosh, if everybody were just like you guys, or if everybody had that outlook, if everybody had your drive, if everybody had your talent, if everybody had that ability, man, our local scene would look so much different. If you are always concerned about constantly bettering yourself and working towards success, as long as it's healthy, you're gonna better yourself. On the flip side of that, there can be an absolute unhealthy obsession with success and fame that can be really detrimental to not only you, but the people you work with. If you've worked in the music industry for any amount of time, you've seen these people. They see success and potential fame only coming from themselves and only being concerned with themselves. If you've been that person, that's when you learn the industry is small and everybody talks. If your pursuit of fame involves cutting down anyone else, that's gonna get around. The industry is not super forgiving to those individuals. Anytime I've had a hint of success, it's been from collaborating with others, whether that's a band coming in the studio, another producer that I've worked with, another mixer I've worked with. Especially in the music industry, this is nearly impossible to do 100% by yourself. There are people out there that are doing it. I think they're the exception to the rule. Decide what success is for you. Is success paying your rent? Is success putting some money away for retirement? Is success buying a building? Is success booking that next gig? Finally booking that 2-week tour? Is success finally selling all 1,000 of your records? There's so many things here, and fame does not have to be involved in any one of those. I think the worst part for the music industry, for anyone who works in any part of this, is that you stop because you feel like you're not going to make it, because you're not going to get signed, or you're not going to be a household name, or you're not going to be the next Max Martin, or as a singer, you're not going to be the next Adele, whoever that may be for you. Probably showing my age a little bit in some of these references. This is not, I know this is coming across like a very serious rant, and it probably is, but it's so hard to watch so many people be so concerned with success in the form of potential fame. How many phone calls I get that are, hey, we need to put out a record. I got this label working for it. And most of the time those people are completely lying. No label is waiting for you to put out a studio record. No radio station is waiting for you to get a song out. Why would they do that? They're a radio station. They have songs to put out already. Why are they waiting for you? And if they really were, they'd bankroll you. But even that amount of tying fame to something can be really unhealthy. And that's your measure of where you are as an artist this whole time. Man, that label is just right around the corner. That radio play is just right around the corner. You're missing all the other pieces of what make being in a band or being a musician or being a producer just awesome. If you're in this for that fame, simply for the sake of being famous, it's going to be a hard ride for you, I imagine. But if you're in this because you can't picture yourself doing anything else, this is what you do, this is what you're good at, then take solace in the fact that you don't have to be famous to make this work. You can do it. You don't have to be a household name to make this a sustainable thing for you. I struggle with the fact that I'm not successful, and I've got a video on imposter syndrome. Go check that out. I'll put it up here. But any of us in the music industry do the same thing. Feel like we're not worth it. We feel like we're frauds. We feel like we're just never going to be successful. It's hard to turn this around and say, let me be an example for this, because I honestly don't feel like that, and I feel like imposter syndrome is a big part of that. There's really no way to end this video without seeming braggy, and I really don't want it to come across like that. But just as an example, on a recording studio, I get to work with the bands for a living. It's fun. I get to come to work and love what I do. Have a building, have my own building in a business park here. I'm surrounded by a lot of doctor's offices. It's a 3,000 square foot multi-room studio, and we can host all sorts of different kinds of people here. Tracking to filming people to live studio recording stuff, and getting to work with just an uncountable number of different genres is so much fun to me. I feel like I'm struggling to look at the camera because it feels like I'm bragging, and I don't like it. But take that as solace that you don't need to be a household name to be successful. If this is your mark of success, I got here without anybody knowing who I was. So if I can do it, you sure as heck can do this too. There's a whole lot of other producers, even in my area, who I would consider great successes, who probably would not consider themselves successful. Maybe this is not all about does fame equal success, but the fact that we need to calibrate ourselves and know that maybe what we define as success needs to change. Real talk. I hope I can edit this into something that makes sense, because I feel like I just ranted for 25 minutes. Yeah, we'll see what this video turns out to be. But to drive home the fact, you see too many people who only want fame for fame's sake, and you're gonna miss the fun parts about being in a band. That's what got this whole thing started. I look back on my early career and guys I used to play with and the awesome times we had on the road. Those are the days that you're gonna wish for when it's all done. And if you can somehow define success around that, man, well, now you've got a career that anybody can get behind. Anyway, guys, I'm Resident Loser Jeremy. Go ahead and subscribe down there if you would like to see more videos. I put out tutorials all the time. We do rants. I do DIY projects. You can check those out on the channel. Hit the bell if you want to be notified every time I put one out. I'll see you guys in the next one.